It's Monday. It's Monday. Thank God we're back. Because guess what? It's Monday. I'm here. You're here. Because you're watching this, so you got to be here. And we made it through another weekend. Hope you enjoyed our basement series. Shout out to the guys again. Thank you for showing the support over the weekend. Also, we just put part 2 up earlier today. So make sure you check that out also. But I'd definitely be remiss if I didn't talk about Malcolm Jamal Warner. Sorry about the voice today, too. I'm a little under the weather, but hey, that's okay. And what effect not only him, but the Cosby Show had on me and a lot of other people who grew up in that time period, and even a little later on afterwards. And what I would encourage people to do is, if you want to, if you didn't grow up in that era, go back and watch it and check out a lot of the good points that were made from that show, the good things that were talked about, the realness of a lot of it. Although a lot of people didn't grow up in that type of household, but there were a lot of real lessons that can be learned. Because, you know, as I always like to brag about it, Bill Cosby is from Philly, right? Regardless as to what you think about him, he was a genius at the time to me. Very, very smart guy. And without a doubt, to me, the best television show to be on TV in the history of television, in my estimation. But let's get back to Malcolm Jamal Warner, because he was a little older than me, maybe 3 or 4 years older than me. So, of course, I was younger watching it at the time. But the thing that was admirable about him was that if you really think about it, like, he was the only guy in the house, well, him and his dad, but he was the only guy, and he had sisters. He didn't have any other brothers. And so I don't know if Bill Cosby did that to reflect his own family, but he was the only guy on the show. So, you know, from a guy's perspective, you know, I got to see some of the kinds of things that he went through, and definitely with that shirt situation, because there's always been times when us as guys, we wanted to go out somewhere, or now, you know, maybe we wouldn't get somebody that we know to make us a shirt, but still, we always still wanted to look presentable and look cool. And he looked crazy in that. But the way the rest of the episode went, if you've never seen it, he does wind up coming back and thanking his sister Denise for making the shirt, because a lot of people gave him a lot of compliments on it, and I think the young lady that he liked really liked the shirt. But just doing a deeper dive into, I've talked about this before. I made another episode where it was called Where's Bill and Uncle Phil, or Uncle Phil and Bill. And I just talk about how there's very, very little reflection television-wise of what black families look like, whether for good or for bad, but in this situation, a positive look. We don't see it at all. So, you know, and like I've said before, you know, I'm guilty also of watching Power, of watching different shows. The one that to me comes the closest to, and it still has a bit of gratuitous violence in it, but is The Chi. So that's what comes closest to me as far as, you know, just showing real family dynamics and people trying to, especially in an inner city, in a rough inner city, trying to put it together. So it's a little more drama on the rating side than the Cosby Show was, more of a sitcom, but still, that's kind of the closest that I've seen. And I don't know if we'll ever see another Cosby Show again. I don't know if we'll ever have a guy like a Theo, a guy who was raised, and he was a young black man in the family, and he didn't have to portray being a thug. He didn't have to portray being a drug dealer. He didn't have to portray being somebody that would be looked at as stereotypically a tougher or rougher inner city guy. And I know people say, well, his dad was a doctor on the show, and his mom was a lawyer, and they seemed like they were doing nice and all this other kind of stuff right. But they were still in New York City. And also, there are things that people still can get caught up in. It's less likely, but it doesn't mean that it's uncommon. And the thing I appreciate about them is that because imaging it means a lot. And what they showed him going through just different phases of life. But they also showed the hurdle, once he got over the hurdle of that phase, that it was okay on the other side. Because I think he battled dyslexia on the show. He, of course, like when anybody else dealt with girl problems, there was a couple of scenes, a couple of times when he tried to tell Bill, that he wasn't going to go to college and that, he wasn't as smart as his mom and dad, and everybody doesn't have to be that way. And I remember Bill Cosby just saying something like, that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. And once again, a lot of you probably already seen these episodes, but, just a really good actor. And as time went on, he even as an adult, because sometimes with a lot of guys, especially as child actors, they get typecast as this type of person. But he went on and he was still a good guy in a show that, although wasn't on one of the bigger networks, I think it was on UPN when they first came out, but still a good show. You should check that out also, is Malcolm and Eddie, with him and the comedian Eddie Griffin, and they were club owners or bar owners or whatever, but still really good acting. And once again, he stayed true to being a good person. He showed that you can still be an actor, be a black actor, and still display strong, manly qualities without getting overly emotional, without getting out of control, without threatening somebody to kill him, threatening somebody to shoot him, or do any of that stuff. So he really he was able to still maintain a good quality masculine character without having had to go over the top. I hadn't seen a lot of his newer works. I saw one time, I think, was it a year ago, on the Breakfast Club, where I think it was him and a couple other people, they were starting a podcast. So I hadn't kept up with him, a lot recently, and a lot more in recent years, but never heard about him, as many other people have said, anything wrong, doing the wrong things, any of that kind of stuff, except just being a good, exceptional person. And you know what? Whether you become famous or not ever in life, if you can go through life and your reputation can precede you, because see, that's the big deal to me, is that, because we all have to leave this earth. But how do you leave? Do you leave with people saying, we talked about this before, how will people remember you? Go back and check out that video I made a few weeks ago. How will people remember you? And obviously how people remember him is with a bunch of great things to say and a bunch of great things pouring in about him. In contrast, unfortunately, to how we heard about Hulk Hogan, where there were a lot of people, and Hulk Hogan easily was 5 times bigger than Malcolm Jamal Warner. But in death, he doesn't seem to have been getting celebrated nearly as much, or receiving definitely as much community support from people who have been fans of both. So sometimes you don't always have to be the brightest light in life, but if you're a good light in life, you can be a great life or great light even in death. But hey, you tell me what you think. What's your favorite Cosby Show episode? And put it down in the comments. It's about 1,000 of them I got right now, but I can't think about them because, we all know about the Gordon Gartrell one, and we can all laugh at that one. And so you know how this goes. Make sure you live life. Don't let life live you.